There's still no resolution in the impasse between Shell and its BEE partner Thebe Investments. The dispute around the value of Thebe's stake in the petroleum giant re-emerging when Shell announced its planned exit from South Africa. At the core of the matter is Thebe's 28% shareholding in Shell's downstream South Africa after the oil company produced varying valuations when the BEE partner decided to cash out. Thebe Investments chairman Dr Molefe Tsele speaks to us and joins us in studio. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Tsele. I think first and foremost, we need to start by asking where negotiations are after they deadlock, even in the arbitration process.
Well, good evening or good afternoon. The situation as far as Thebe is concerned is where it has been before Shell announced their exit, which means that we are still committed to an arbitration process as to the valuation.
What are those talks like, or is it a stalemate for now?
One can't say it's a stalemate because we simply need to appoint the arbitrators, and we have agreed on 3 aside, a senior counsel from one side. We have given our names, proposed our names. We're waiting for Shell to come with their names. And then out of the 6 proposed, 3 will be appointed, agreeable by both parties. And then the people will then look at the issues that, which are being disputed, essentially being the valuation price.
Let's go straight to that issue. The valuation price and the culmination of where we are now is a matter of 2 different valuations that Thebe Investments got from Shell. Talk us through that process and what Thebe's stance is around why it is that there are 2 different valuations.
Well, let's start by saying that you are talking about a company that has a history, almost nearly 22 years as of now. And therefore, there is a value that has always been in the books, has been attached. Now, it is undisputable that a number of events happened. The floods in KZN is a case in point. The war in Ukraine is another case in point. So all those events definitely do affect the value. However, it's a question as, when did you put your put? Our view is that our formal letter was on the 12th of August 2022, which is the date, therefore, that we say we are selling all as of this date. If something happens thereafter, it has nothing to do with us. And then, because Shell also has evaluated their position and wants to exit, that on its own doesn't affect us. In other words, whoever buys Shell has nothing to do with what is due to Thebe as of the 12th of August 2022.
What is due to Thebe Investments according to your assessment?
Well, it's I would say that with advice from the board, it's a number that is, I would say, protected or privileged.
Okay.
And however, it is there in our audited statements in going up to 2022. We've always carried that number because that's the number we've used, for example, to get the debt from financial institutions. And they would not have given us any loans without recognizing and actually having confidence in that number.
That's where the challenge also comes in, Dr. Tsele, in that you have loaned money. And this then creates an issue around what it is that you should be cashing out with after 20 years, 22 years to be exact. How have you navigated that? Well,
let's start, and I'm glad you're asking that question. Firstly, what did we put in? We put in 73 million in 2002, which means that we sold our company called TEPCO, and we took loans with the banks in order to raise what Shell wanted, the stake we needed, which was 25% then. Now, over the 20 years, clearly, if anything, that amount of money could have increased by inflation from $73 million in 2020 to 2002. Now, of course, to then come around and say, sorry, there's been the war in Ukraine, so your stake is 0. We say, no, let's leave it to experts, independent experts, to come with a number. And that is the position of Thebe. We are saying basically that let's look at the arbitration, which is the stalemate. Let's expedite it because Shell says it wants to leave. And let's engage in that arbitration in good faith, which means without any delays.
You mentioned the term good faith. Has there been any suspicion of sinister moves? It sounds to the general public as it's yet another David and Goliath situation playing itself out, because from the initial stages, there was no indication that Shell would come back to Thebe and say, oh, oops, sorry, your shareholding is worthless?
Let me firstly impress on you that this is a relationship that is over 20 years. And for the better part of that 20 years, that's been a wonderful relationship. Open, transparent. We enjoyed the support of a number of chairpersons of Shell South Africa. One should mention, for example, during the time of Professor Bonang Mohale. That is why we were able to raise our stake from 25 to 28, because we enjoyed it. Now, coming towards the tail end when we're exiting, we were also shocked. Because, you know, when this deal was done, 2002, it was actually described as the top or best BEE deal ever in the history of South Africa, where a minority company that was in the oil industry was actually taken by a Goliath, let's call it, and then we then became partners. Now, we're all disappointed because the story should not have ended the way, it shouldn't end the way it is ending. It should have actually ended better. And a key to that is the good faith or bad faith of the parties.
As a parting shot, and briefly, if I may, Dr. Tsele, is there are political links with Thebe Investments, and the question has come up to say, is it politics at play with Shell exiting South Africa, but at the same time, you find yourselves being punished for maybe certain moves that would also involve the closing of refineries in South Africa and matters of the boardroom that we ordinary South Africans would not know of?
That's true, but you know, the sequence of the events is that Thebe announced its put long before if there were even rumors of Shell leaving South Africa. We don't know whether that's been the strategy, but nobody knew. It was only after we said it's time for us to cash in. By the way, we decided to cash in not so much because we're unhappy with Shell or it has no value, but because we have decided to reinvest in other sectors. Now, of course, with them leaving, it's a different narrative for South Africa. And by the way, it's not only Shell that is leaving. The investors of other oil industries are also have also announced, or they've already made an announcement leaving. So it's a political environment that has nothing to do with Thebe having decided to cash in the investment. Firstly, we've been there for now it's 22 years. It was about time, really, that we said, after we celebrated 30 years of Thebe, in 2022, we said, let's look at this investment. We think that is matured. Let's therefore use the proceeds elsewhere. And at that time, Shell never even gave a hint that they also have an interest in leaving. It was only possibly, one would say, nearly 21 months after we announced our exit, that they told us that they're also leaving, they're selling their 72%. We actually say, no, it's good, it's up to them, but that should have absolutely no impact in our own decision.
Thank you so much for your insights. It's been insightful, really, to be speaking to you and get clarity on this matter, finally. An extension of an invitation was proposed to Shell. They are, at this point, not speaking apart from the official statement that the company sent out last week.